Well, hello there, Nats fans, and welcome back to another episode of the DoDcast Postgame Show. I'm Ricky Keeler, joined by my fellow co-editor, Ron Juckett, as we get two for the price of one. You get both of us for two shows today, Ron.
Wow. I'm excited.
Well, you should be excited because a great ending to this one. The Nationals win 6-2 on a walk-off grand slam by none other than the newest acquisition, or one of the newest acquisitions, Howie Kendrick, as they get a split the doubleheader for the third time this year. And they get 2 out of 3 from the Giants. So all things considered, a good weekend for the Nats outside of what happened last night.
Right. That's their 70th win of the year. Kendrick pasted that one into the red seats and left center. That ball was absolutely crushed. And the Nats really needed it. I mean, they've won 2 of the 3 games since Harper went down, and you can't ask for much better than that.
And you can tell when you watch this offense play, it's going to take a while for this team to figure out how to play without Bryce Harper. I mean, there's guys hitting in spots they don't normally hit. There's guys playing positions they don't normally play. Like, we're not used to seeing Andrew Stevenson play right field.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of adjustment that's going to happen over the last 2 weeks. This team's not going to score 15 runs a game anytime soon.
I think those days are probably done, but when they get rolling, they do get rolling. They had 11, I think, in the 3-game set. They had 3 last night and 2 in the first game today, and of course 6 with a walk-off granny. But I don't. It will hurt not to have him here for the next. Well, maybe it will be 2 weeks, but I'm figuring a month before he's back. But they'll be fine, and because the division lead is 14 and a half, 15 games, that people are going to be rotated in and out now anyway. The roster's expanded in a couple weeks, 2.5 weeks to be exact. And no, I don't think they're putting 10, 11 runs on people anymore, but they have a lot of divisional games left, Ricky, and the rest of the division is just not good.
Magic number now down to 33 after tonight's win. And yes, Seth, that is a grand slam kaboom. We rarely get grand slam kabooms, but this would happen to be one of them. So let's take a look at the totals. Nationals get 6 runs, 11 hits, no errors, as they go to 70 and 46. Giants, 2 runs, 6 hits, and a pair of errors. They drop to 47 and 72. Matt Albers picks up win number 6 in relief.
Hey.
2 scoreless innings, 2 strikeouts, and a walk on 31 pitches, 20 strikes. And Suarez takes the loss for the Giants, gives up all 4 runs on 3 hits. Did strike out the side in the 10th, but didn't help him much in the 11th. 27 pitches, 20 strikes. Both starters fared pretty well, and I never thought beforehand, Ron, we would say, hey, the Nats only got 2 home runs off Matt Moore and struck out 9 times in 7 innings.
Well, the Nats have a tendency to make pitchers who are kind of at the bottom of the rotation look like Cy Young at times.
Yeah, absolutely. We had Chris Stratton strike out 10 earlier today, and now we got Matt Moore striking out 9. But that's just the way it goes. We've seen this team either gets 10 runs or they get 2 hits.
It's feast or famine, and since you really are having the best of the Syracuse Chiefs mixed, this would be a lineup that you and I would look at in March and go, oh, really? Mm-hmm. But here it is. It's a major league game and it counts. And look, they took 2 out of 3. Just because the Giants are more Sacramento than San Francisco right now, it is what it is. And you're absolutely right. They can make mediocre pitchers look very good because outside of Rendon, no one really takes a lot of pitches. I mean, I think the good thing about Jason Worth coming back is you finally have those 2 pitch eaters coming in the lineup. When it happens, I'm not sure, but that'll be good.
So again, we'll take your questions in the chat room here on the YouTube page. Feel free to tweet us on Twitter at District on Deck, at Rickinator555. The 2 Nats that did do damage against Moore tonight, Daniel Murphy, a solo shot in the bottom half of the 3rd inning, and Ryan Zimmerman, a home run, his 27th of the season, his in the 6th inning. So the Nats now have 4 players with 20 more home runs this year. They won't get to 6 players unless Brian Goodwin and Michael Taylor go on an absolute tear, and Goodwin's got groin tightness, so who knows when he'll be back. Sure. But still, when you have Murphy and Zimmerman, that's going to be huge for this team if those 2 guys can carry the power load for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long it is, because it's going to really come down to Murphy, Zimmerman, and Rendon to be the main contributors in this lineup for the time being.
They are a heavy-hitting home run team, as you know. And thankfully, a lot like last year, it's, as you said, it's pretty well spread out. Everyone has the possibility of having some power, and maybe, Anthony Rendon with the home run in the first game, that was his 26th. That's a career high for him. He still has, with 6-7 weeks to go, an outside shot at 40. Not likely, but it's possible.
A long way to go, of course, and I believe I just saw a tweet from Nats PR that this is the 4th walk-off grand slam since 2005. I'm going to double-check that just to make sure real quick.
The move?
Very rare. Oh, yeah, of course. You don't see walk-off grand slams very often. That's why we're happy that it happens. But I know Seth brought up Howie Kendrick, and we mentioned it at the time, Ron. This was a really good move by Mike Rizzo, considering all these injuries and finding a way to just get him. Yes, it's for Mackenzie Mills, but he fills all these roles. He's done a good job in left field, like we talked about earlier today, and he can come up with a big hit in a professional at bat. He even had the walk in the at bat prior, where she battled against Strickland to get on base.
His numbers all year have been good. They were really good in Philadelphia, and he actually brings in what part of the game that you really like, which is a speed element. So
we need more of that, by the way.
Right, so he brings that extra element to the table, and he's finally healthy. He spent most of the year in Philadelphia hurt. It wasn't that he couldn't play; he just wasn't healthy. And so you're lucky to have a guy here now in the final third of the season who's pretty much fresh. And going from Philadelphia to Washington, I mean, you're going from a pretender to a contender, and that's just going to make anyone play better.
Absolutely. He does a lot of good things well, no question about it. I like Seth's tweet where he says, incidentally, 20 innings in one day seems to be an appropriate price to pay for dressing our founding fathers up as Ninja Turtles. It was 90s night tonight because the game got rained out Friday.
That's right. I didn't have the sound on because I was writing a piece, so I forgot it was 90s night, but I did see on the scoreboard how they had the players dressed on VHS covers. I thought it was Adam Lind on the cover of Toy Story, and some of those were quite good.
Zuckerman had the other 3 walk-off grand slams, 2 of them by Ryan Zimmerman, which were both off of Ryan Madsen.
Wow.
And one is a name that maybe the most diehard Nats fans might get, Justin Maxwell. Name rings a bell. I remember him from a different team. I think he was a Yankee at one point, right?
Didn't you have to put him when we did the countdown from Days till Spring to the Grapefruit League?
I think so. I believe he made the countdown to the Grapefruit League.
Because some of those were rather obscure, and you did a good job trying to find video or at least a picture of these players to post with that.
Anytime I can put Termel Sledge or Reed Johnson into a countdown, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
That's just me. Looking at it from the pitching side of things tonight, I thought Max Scherzer gets the first 9 guys out, runs into a little bit of trouble in the 4th inning, but gets some help from Michael Taylor, who we'll get to in a little bit because he made his return to the lineup in Game 2. He did make the one mistake pitch to Pablo, a.k.a. to Panda Sandoval. That ball is still going if it didn't hit the facing of the third deck. But all in all, 7 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, another 10 strikeout game, his 13th of the season.
That's astounding.
He's now struck out 9 or more, I believe, in 6 of his last 7. And that other game, of course, was the one he left early. So overall, Ron, your thoughts on what Max did today?
Well, he was stalking about early. He looked to be in control. He wanted to stay in the game. We talked about that when he came out to pitch the 7th. He really dictates his own game, and he dictates the pace and the tempo to the other team. I mean, he was done in a flat 2 hours and 17 minutes. I thought this game was going to be over by 9:30, just because the way he was just out there. He hit all his spots. I don't know what his ball to strike rate. Strike ratio is usually very high. Whatever was bothering him 2 starts before with the neck is certainly well under control. I mean, he looked like the Max that we expected to see all year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought he had a good movement on his fastball, especially to Pence to end the 6th inning. He was able to get him to chase after getting behind 3-0. I thought that was key. I was surprised he pitched the 7th, only because I wanted to see the Kinsler, Doolittle, Madsen trio, which we still have to wonder what Ryan Madsen's up to. He got warmed up and then had to sit back down. So we'll keep that in the background to see if Dusty talks about that after the game at some point. But I also thought I thought he was not his A stuff, but again, when you have Max Scherzer go out there, it's not his A stuff, and he still finds a way to put up double-digit strikeouts. I mean, that's the sign of an ace and a guy that's in the running for the National League Cy Young again this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. By the way, our Yankees just pulled ahead.
I was saving that for later, but if you wanted to bring that up on your own.
I actually went over to Twitter to see if I could get any Dusty quotes for you when my dual timelines just were lit up with all sorts of happy and kind words for Red Sox manager John Farrell.
So there's still one inning left in the District on Deck Bowl between the Red Sox and the Yankees. Judo, the winning pitcher was Matt Albers, and we are both exhausted too.
Yeah, so I kind of blanked on your question. Something will Scherzer win the Cy Young? Is that what
well, that wasn't really a question, but I would think he's the odds-on favorite because the other odds-on favorite is still trying to get back.
Well, and he pitches a rehab game this week. I think Tuesday or Wednesday, Kershaw takes the hill. So yeah, if it's not Kershaw, it's Scherzer. And Scherzer, what do you give a five hits over 7?
Yes.
Which for him is actually high. I mean, his hits per 9 ratio was under 6 this year. I mean, he's having an incredible year. Better than last year, and he won the Cy Young Award last year. So if you're going to not vote for, if the voters aren't going to vote for Kershaw because he was hurt, then yeah, Scherzer is having a better year this year than last year. And it was pretty cut and dry that he was going to win the Cy Young last year.
So it wasn't the full law firm. It was 2/3 of the law firm. Brandon Rhino Kinsler and Sean Dr. Doolittle come into the game, and Kinsler looked really good in a 1-2-3 8th inning. Had good tailing action on his fastball. Should have got a strike 3 to Denard Span, but that didn't happen. And Doolittle was impressive. He got into a little bit of trouble. Panic got a single, reached second on a wild pitch, and then gets the 3rd on the sac fly by Penn. So they walk Posey. And there was a great battle with Sandoval where Doolittle's throwing fastballs up and constantly gets higher in the zone to the point where if he throws it any higher, it's going to be a wild pitch. Sandoval pops out, and then he gets Nick Hundley to pop out. And that's what you got Doolittle for. He's going to go out there and throw 96, 97. And even when he gets in jams, you still feel like he's going to find a way out of it.
All right. This is from Chelsea regarding Madsen. He had a blister. Dusty didn't seem too worried.
All right. So they do have a day off tomorrow. So best that you got to be on the side of caution. So if you have a blister, don't pitch.
Right.
I find the Dodgers have all the pitching blisters anyway. It seems like, but I feel like that's a common thing this year with the difference in the ball. There's a lot of blisters this year from pitchers.
Well, it depends on how they rub the ball. I mean, everyone throws so hard. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised that blisters haven't been more of a problem. And I just saw the GIF of Coco getting out of the way for Kendrick's Gatorade bath.
And that's a good point on Madsen because he has thrown the ball harder than I think anybody expected.
Well, he threw 100 at one point,
mm-hmm.
right?
I think that was Thursday, I believe he threw 100, which surprised the heck out of me. Let's talk about Michael Taylor. Of course, made his return to the lineup tonight. Did go 1 for 4, had a bloop single, and then reached second on an error by Tomlinson. But his plays were in the field. Took a double away from Matt Moore. He throws out Joe Panic at the plate, which I don't know how the heck that Panic stayed in the game. Look, he got drilled in the head.
This just crossed. He's going to take tomorrow off. It was a planned off day anyway, and they're hoping that he doesn't test positive for concussion. I mean, Wieters punched him. I don't think he meant to throw a punch, but that's essentially what happened on that play.
That was scary just to watch Panic in the field, and it looked like he was kind of figuring out where he was.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not.
I mean, I'm a huge Joe Panic fan because he's a St. John's alum too. So always like Joe Panic. Did have a 2 for 4 night, so he had a great game. All things considered, the Giants as a whole, I think, had 5 extra base hits in the 3 games. So that's how bad. Felt like 4 games. So that's how bad their offense is, and really they only rely on. You look at the top 4 in the lineup: Span, Panic, Pence, and Posey. It's really their 4 best hitters.
Right, and they just were. I don't want to say that they were overmatched by Washington's pitching, but you can certainly understand why they are doing as well as they are or how they're doing as poorly as they are in the standings.
All right, so back to Taylor, and I think again the defense is always key. It's great to have that back, and I think it'll be a while before Dusty puts him back to the top of the order. But it seems like he's the guy for that spot. As great as Brian Goodwin has been, hitting home runs in that spot, Taylor can give you a little bit of everything. And I think this offense, once he gets acclimated again, and it's going to take a while, he's going to be I think they got him back at the right time, albeit they had to bring him back on unfortunate circumstances.
Well, his defense certainly was there tonight. I just get him some at-bats. I think he'll be fine.
You still worry a little bit about the 7 for 45 in the minors because you never want to see that, but he was a little bit better. He did have a strikeout late in the game, and that's just who Michael Taylor is. He's going to strike out, but they need his power at the bottom of the order. But now I think you have to make the case: do you move him up to the top because Wilmer Defoe's done such a nice job at the second spot? Maybe you alternate Goodwin and Taylor depending on the day is or which guy's rolling at a particular time.
The key, I think, for Taylor is that you got to watch how he swings the bat. I mean, when he's the most successful, there's these early in the count and short broom-style sweepy swings. If he starts doing that, he'll be fine. As you said, he's going to strike out an absolute ton. But you take the defense that he gives you and the pop that he has in his bat and his speed. And look, strikeouts are a major part of the game today. Not something I really enjoy, but it is what it is. And he was effective there before. So, as long as the oblique stays fine, I would expect that his offense would return.
Andrew Stevenson at the top of the lineup did have 4 strikeouts, but he did have 2 hits in game 1, and he had 2 good plays in the field, whether it was taking the weird route on the liner by Panic in the first, but he found a way to make the play, and then getting the ball in the gap against Sandoval. And that's it. He's not a right fielder. He's a natural center fielder from his time in college, and he's playing left field on occasion. Now he's playing right field on occasion with Harper out. It's clear the defense is there. The bat has just taken a long time to get there. But remember, Stevenson had a long time at Syracuse where the bat wasn't there for about a month or so and then bounced back. It's great to see his glove is playing in the majors like it did in college.
I'm impressed with what I've seen so far from Andrew Stevenson, but I'm going to, say this along with what we saw with Eric Fetty this spring and coming up now. If it wasn't for injuries, he wouldn't be here yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he's not a finished product. It's good to see them not be scared of the challenge of being called up early on a championship contender team. But, you just have to take any time that he's out there with a grain of salt. And then it's all a huge learning experience from him. And he's learning along the way, and he's not costing the team games.
Absolutely. So the Nationals get a much-needed win. They get 2 out of 3. They've had a good homestand. They took 3 out of 4 against the Marlins. So now they'll get to wrap up the homestand after a day off tomorrow with 2 games against the Angels. I believe it's Tyler Skaggs against Gio Gonzalez on Tuesday. And all of a sudden, that's one of the Nats' bigger series, albeit a mini-series, because the Angels right now would be the second wild card. If the season ended today, these 2 teams split with each other, played a good first game, then the Angels dominated with Alex Meyer out on the West Coast about a month ago. So I think this will be a real interesting series. Just a shame that it won't be Bryce Harper against Mike Trout for 2 days in the national media.
Yeah, it kind of takes some of the glow off it because Harper isn't going to be there. But anytime you get a chance to see Mike Trout on the East Coast, when most of us are still awake, it's a treat. And I'm kind of curious to see just how the Angels have done it, because you didn't think that they were going to be much of a factor this year in the American League West. And look, they've played them. It's a crazy race in the American League for the wild card, but they played the way into a potential playoff spot.
Judo likes Andrew Stevenson too, and I'll throw the tweet since the two of them keep throwing updates in the chat. Devers homered off Chapman in the ninth. So I guess
Is that what it was?
I guess he's the next great third base prodigy in Fenway.
Yes.
Definitely. Nunez, the former Yankee, and Devers wreaking havoc in the Bronx. So
103-mile-an-hour fastball hit out to left field.
Jeez. Okay. But no, I think it would be an interesting series. I think no DH, and you have Albert Pujols. We'll see if he even gets a game here because he's not really the guy I'd want to put at first base. So that'll be another interesting storyline here. And also Howie Kendrick against his former team.
That's true. That's another storyline there. And because Mike Scioscia's been there since the beginning of time as manager, and I don't think I'd be curious to see how that goes.
That second wild card is just insane right now.
Absolutely.
You got like Toronto is like 6 games under or something like that, and they're 3 back.
Well, it's one of the reasons why there was such a difficult time in making getting someone like Ozuna from Toronto. Mm-hmm. They're just American League teams just couldn't afford to be sellers. I mean, we're talking 7-8 teams in contention for 2 spots. Obviously, 5 or 6 of those teams are going to be, sitting at home come October, but you got to take the chance. So it's too early to sell, and it made a huge difference in how the trade market went down.
So as we said, Gio's going to get the ball here against the Angels. Last time out against Los Angeles, he went 5 2/3, gave up 4 runs on 5 hits. Not one of his better outings this year, but he's coming off of 2 excellent games against the Marlins. And I've kind of hinted at it, Ron, because I did the Marlins series earlier in the week. I think now the roles have flipped. Gio's the guy you expect the most out of, and Tanner Roark became now the guy that you'll take 6 innings from every night. But Gio's been excellent. There's no reason to expect that he won't be great at home on Tuesday night, where he has a 1.95 ERA at home this year.
Well, I suspect that he hadn't had a lot of sleep before his last start. You children will do that to you. But yes, you're absolutely right. I did hear you mention that before. I think it was on one of the DoDcasts that I actually just kind of watched from the side. He, whatever it is, and this came right down from the first time in spring training when he pitched the opening day of the Grapefruit League against the Mets. There was something about him that was different this year. He got into trouble early, even in that game, and of course it's spring training and it matters for nothing. But he carried himself differently, and it's kind of gone through the entire season. When he gets into trouble, last year he just would kind of have a conversation and berate himself on the mound, and this year he's held it together. He's always been an innings eater, but there's just I don't know what it is that he seems to be comfortable in his own skin, and sometimes that's all the difference.
Now, we have 6 weeks to figure this out, but I would kind of lean toward Gio in Game 2 over Steven Strasburg right now.
I don't know if I would go that far because when Strasburg was pitching in cooler weather, he was dominant. I kind of wonder, we've talked about this before, whether Strasburg has some dehydration issues when the weather gets warm. Or whatever. I mean, I think it depends on what what happens the first couple times out for Strasburg coming off the disabled list. I mean, tomorrow is a big start for him in that rehab game against Potomac.
Yep, 5 innings or 75 pitches, whichever comes first tomorrow night for the Peanuts. But Let me throw a stat out there, might change your mind.
Okay.
Strasburg's home and road splits, which again, you don't really like to go off this too much. 10 starts at home, ERA of 4.13. 10 starts away from home, he's 7-1 with a 2.37.
Yeah, you only get the 1 start unless your name is Max Scherzer in the first round anyway.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you, to me, you also have the lefty and Gio there in Game 2. You maybe get a different lineup out there. I just think he's not the guy that Dusty had to take out of the game in the 5th inning last year in LA. And I think that's the most important thing is Gio's going to give you 6 to 7 quality innings nearly every night.
Right.
And I don't even know, again, injury withstanding, Strasburg can be dominant, but there are also times where he lets the situation get away from him.
Right. And the other thing with Gonzalez is, just taking this off the top of my head, It's like in runners in scoring position, opponents are hitting 145 off him or some ungodly thing like that.
Judo brings up a good point. Like Seth talked, they were talking about the defense. Now Seth said they're ranked in the top 10 almost every defensive statistic, and Judo says they're underrated, especially the regulars. It's tough because they have great defenders with Rendon and Stevenson is a good defender. I don't know if we call him great yet.
They're not. They're
the right side of the infield. I don't trust Ryan Zimmerman to throw the ball. I trust him to field the ball, not throw it. Daniel Murphy, it's a mystery what if he'll field the ball, but Matt Wieters behind the plate. While he did throw out Denard Span, he's had a couple of big caught stealings the last few days. He still has a tough time with the pitches. Tonight he was breaking in a new glove in the first inning of the game. I don't know why.
Threw one away. Threw a stolen base away, right?
I don't think he threw one away. He just was not. The ball was not staying in the glove in the first inning with Scherzer, so I think he went to another. FP was talking about he went to another glove.
Would you?
It was weird, but Wieters has not been the defensive guy that you want. So I think guys that they're good in some spots. Like Defoe has been a pretty good defensive shortstop. It's just a matter of they're really bad at other spots and kind of evens it out.
Yeah, I would say that Murphy's. I mean, there's a couple times that we've talked off camera, and I've turned to you. I said he really was he was worse in New York, and you keep saying, "Yep, I'm going."
If you remember Game 4 of the World Series, then though that was not Murphy's high point with New York.
They don't hurt themselves that often, but there clearly are some players are, and it's not an equal of it. How their goodness is not equal.
We mentioned it earlier. They're getting basically don't screw it up production in left field out of Adam Lind and Howie Kendrick.
Right. And Jason Worth when he was healthy too. I mean,
true. Worth's not the same defender he once was.
No.
All right, so let's go around the league here. Look at some scores. Of course, Houston's trying to acquire Tyler Clippard from the White Sox. That's exciting. Ken Rosenthal broke that. Tyler Clippard on his third different team this year.
He may be on his fourth because there was another tweet that I saw from a beat writer while I was watching TweetDeck that they may offer him to either Detroit as part of a package for Verlander or see if San Diego will bite on him for Hand.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that as the game goes on.
It's going anywhere, but I could see that possibly for Verlander.
We're going to have more Hand puns again. I thought we were done with Brad Hand puns till the winter, which, by the way, the Padres extended Andy Green today.
Till 2021 or something like that.
Longer than A.J. Preller's contract, at least right now.
Well, you need some sanitizer for things like that.
All right, so looking around the division, the Marlins beat the Colorado Rockies today 5-3. Another day, another game where Giancarlo Stanton hits a homer. He's now up to 42 this season. He's tied Gary Sheffield for the Marlins record, and it's we talked about it during the Marlins series this week. It's just great to see Giancarlo Stanton healthy again and crushing the ball. And the new CEO Derek Jeter is going to have a hard time figuring out if he can afford to keep him or not.
The sixth fastest to 250 homers in his career.
That's true. I didn't realize he had gotten a 250 with that home run. That
was 250 today. Yeah.
When he gets barrel on the ball, it's so much fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
And I see Judge here, and we watch Harper all the time, and to me, Stan's the best barrel to ball hitter in the league.
Oh, those balls get launched. I mean, there has never been a cheap Giancarlo Stanton home run.
Rockies have been slipping a little bit. They're now tied with Arizona for the wild card. Even though both have a significant lead over the other people, but trying to get that home field in that game will be important. Out in Philadelphia, the Mets beat the Phillies 6-2. Good weekend for the Mets out in Philadelphia. Chris Flexen got the win, his second of his major league career. Of course, they called up Dom Smith earlier this week to play first base, so now they've got Smith, they've got Rosario, they dealt Neil Walker away. No surprise there, but 3 hits today for Curtis Granderson. You wonder if he might be next on the trade block. Of course, they got the big home run from Ahmed Rosario last night to win that game. So he's starting to perform a little bit as well. And the Braves beat the Cardinals 6-3, snapping St. Louis's 8-game win streak. Trying to my computer's going, so I'm going off the phone here for at least the scores. to get the highlights of this game. Brandon Phillips hit a 2-run shot off Michael Walken. R.A. Dickey got the win in that one. And, of course, the Dodgers won again, and their magic numbers down to 28 in the West. And we were kind of throwing out there just jokingly the other day who would clinch first, the Nats or the Dodgers. But I'm starting to think it's the Dodgers. They have a 5 magic number game lead.
Well, let's put it this way. The Nats are going to have the second best record. They won their 70th game of the year today, and they're 13 or 14 games behind the Dodgers.
Again, like we talked about earlier, that's what made playing that game Saturday as meaningless as you could possibly have it.
I talked about this last night, I think, on Twitter. The Dodgers won their 82nd game. The earliest the team has won 82 games since the 1944 St. Louis Cardinals, which was a wartime team. I mean, that just tells you just how incredible the Dodgers are this year, that they've done something that hasn't happened in 74 years.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't seen Stanton live in person, Seth. I don't think I haven't been to Marlins Mets as far as I can remember, but I would love to see Stanton in person. So maybe if the Marlins come to New York next year, maybe that's something I'd try to do. Who knows? Let's go around the minors here for a little bit. And, of course, Syracuse took on Indianapolis. They got 2 hit by the Indians. But the star of this game, at least for the Chiefs, is Eric Fetty. They talked about it a little bit on Masson, but he had a good game today. 7 innings, 2 runs, 7 hits, struck out 5, and walked 108 pitches, 69 strikes. Rare you see Fetty go 7 innings, so that's a really good sign that he's carried over the positives he took from the 2 major league starts, especially the game at Wrigley. And, of course, I think Fetty will be up when the rosters expand in a few weeks, so he's going to get some valuable starts in the minors.
The growth that you saw in Fetty in his starts is amazing, and I'm sure that worked out to his advantage today. He can taste it now. He's close to being up for good.
Harrisburg gave up 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th. They lost to the Hartford Yard Goats 10-9. Good games though for Victor Robles, 2 for 5 with 4 RBIs in this one. Roddy Reed, another home run, his 14th of the year, and 3 hits for Dan Gamache, who's hitting .367 with the Senators. So not bad by him. Austin Voth got the no decision, 4 earned runs, allowed over 6 innings, and Andrew Robinson took the loss and the blown save, gave up 2 earned runs, 4 total in that bottom of the 9th inning.
Not for nothing, Ricky. After all the construction trouble they had last year getting Dunkin' Donuts Park open in Hartford, in fact, they didn't even play a game there last year. People are raving about how wonderful that park is and just what a good atmosphere it is.
I like the Yard Goats name, but I still prefer, to Judo's point, I still prefer Rumble Ponies Judo. That's still better.
Rumble Ponies is Hartford. They should be the Travelers.
All right. Potomac taking on Frederick in High A Carolina League action, and the Peanuts won 9-5. You had 2 RBIs from Dale Carey. Taylor Gashu, a solo shot, his 18th of the season. He's up to 64 RBIs. Daniel Johnson had another RBI today. He's hitting .314 since joining the Peanuts. Taylor Guilbeau got the win, 6 innings, 3 runs, 6 hits, and he struck out 5 on 88 pitches, so good start by him. Rough day for Hagerstown. They played a doubleheader because they played a lot of doubleheaders this year.
They were rained out Friday, right?
Yeah, another, I think it was either Friday or it was yesterday.
Last night, yeah.
Definitely. We hope everybody's safe from all the rain in the D.C. area last night. The sky was really scary to look at. James Bork took the loss for the Suns in Game 1, 4 earned runs and 5 2/3, struck out 3 and walked 2. Tomito Augustine, a home run, his 7th of the season. That was really all the Suns did in one of the games, and then the other game, they lost 5-3. Nick Banks' home run in this one, his 5th of the season. Ben Bramer took the loss, 5 2/3, 4 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Only 3 hits for the Suns in that one. And a rough day at the office for Seth Romero as Auburn took on Lowell. And he gave up 3 runs in the first inning, and that's all he threw. 1 inning, 3 runs, 4 hits, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, 35 pitches, 24 strikes. He's on an innings thing to begin with. He only threw 3 innings against Connecticut the other day, but you never like to see that. Cameron Estee had 2 hits. Carter Keeblem had another RBI. And Brandon Maggetto, he's been red hot this month. He's a New York Penn League All-Star, another hit. He was hitting over 400 in August, and they have their All-Star game coming up on Tuesday, so they're off till Wednesday. And the GCL Nats lost to the GCL Cardinals 10-4. 3 hits for Luis Garcia and Yasiel Antuna, so 2 of the big international signings from last year with some big hits today. Nelson Galindez took the loss. And that's your minor league update. Of course, the big minor league update is that Steven Strasburg, you mentioned, is the rehab game tomorrow. We're not here, but we'll try our best to cover it. None of us are in Potomac, but we'll try as best we can to keep you updated on what's going on over there.
But I actually get a little live tweet at least some of that stuff, listen on the radio.
Seth asked us, sorry about that. When do we kind of touched on this earlier, Seth, but we'll talk about it again. When do we expect back? Late September is
Harper.
what Seth is as a possibility. Yeah.
Harper, could you get out there for me for a second? He seems to think that he'll be back in a couple of weeks. I don't think it'll be before September 1st when they expand the rosters. My guess is that he probably won't be in the outfield for a month. I think when they bring him back, if he doesn't do some minor league rehab time, it'll be some pinch hitting duties. They want to make sure he can run on that knee and be safe. But my goodness, he jumped on it last night in the clubhouse after the game and said it felt fine. So I'm thinking full-time back, get your playoff work in. I'm thinking mid-September, but I really think that's optimistic.
Yeah, we actually signed off of the first podcast we did today like 20 seconds before Bryce Harper talked to the media. We just had really bad timing. But Ron mentioned he was doing exercises last night. He had barely a limp, no brace, no crutches. He's talking about wanting to get back for playoffs, World Series, awards even. So you can tell the MVP is still on his mind as he's one of the favorites, even though Goldschmidt and Arenado and Stanton, of course, are having tremendous years. So when I hear Harper talk like that, and he's a big competitor, and I'm kind of with Ron. I wouldn't expect him back before the first at all, but when you see Dusty float out there 10 days to 2 weeks, I know the Nats are not the most team that gets those timelines right. There's a lot of belief that Harper will – Dusty even says it. He's going to be back for the end of the year. So if everything goes well and there are no setbacks, I could see mid-September and get Harper 2 weeks of action before the playoffs. I think he'll need it.
Yeah, we talked about this at the end of the first game. It's a question of, A, can he injure the knee more playing? If there's a increased risk of a tear, which obviously would set him out for 6 months, then they're not going to rush him back. The division lead is pretty much the division's over. There's no reason to rush him back until he's healthy and ready to go. But there is a significant advantage of having this injury at 24 as opposed to 34. He's healthy and he's young. He's going to heal quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the odd thing about today, we forgot to mention earlier, both number 3 hitters in the lineup homered today.
Yeah. That's
so
pretty
said the Nats' magic number last night was 34. You could tell they have Bryce on their minds, and they played pretty well, all things considering. That still had to be in their head from last night, and that scary scene from Ron has worked really hard. He was up till 2 a.m. last night, and he's doing double games today because co-host that he is.
It was, one of those things. I think knowing before the first game started that there wasn't going to be an ACL surgery, I think really lifted the spirits. It certainly lifted mine. And you could just tell by watching the fans on television today that, okay, it's going to be okay. It's just business as usual now. And yes, they lost the first game, but that Stratton kid pitched really, really well. But there wasn't the sense of gloom and doom. It was when they started last night at 10 o'clock, it was a party atmosphere there. Most people had stayed through the rain delay, and as soon as he injured that knee, it was a funeral. All the energy was sucked out of that place, and even by midnight, the place was mostly empty.
Which made it amazing they won that game last night.
Right. That just kind of goes to show the resilience of this team especially after what happened after the Scherzer injury when they blew the 6-run lead, is that they kept focus on the task at hand and beat the Giants. At one point, Charlie and Dave on the radio had a conversation and said, "Yeah, this is hard to do. Our thoughts are not on what's going on in front of us; it's what's going on in that locker room at the particular moment." But the Nats, and I give Dusty Baker full credit for this. They go out prepared and professional every game.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they still, even with Taylor off the DL and Harper on, they still have 10 players on the disabled list. 10 players.
Yep.
And they've walked away with this division. I mean, that's just astounding.
And that's going to be the interesting thing is, and I'll add on to that, how the crowd was really good tonight for a makeup game.
It was a pretty nice crowd, yeah.
Yeah, they were loud and did a tremendous job, at least from what I heard. But I'm going to be really intrigued to see what this team looks like in September, because it's going to take a while for everybody to get back, and they're going to rely on Turner to get back to what he was, and we're seeing now Taylor get acclimated, and Wirt's eventually going to have to get acclimated, and Harper's going to have to get acclimated. It's going to be a different team about 3-4 weeks from now, and it's going to be let's put it this way, Nats fans, there's going to be a lot of adjustments. The next 6 weeks, you'll just have to be patient and go through, because this offense is going to maybe look different each and every week.
We talked about this at the trade deadline, that once these players started to come back, once the starters started to come back, that was going to be just as if they had traded for these folks, because they're going to be hopefully significantly healthier than they would if they had played with the everyday aches and pains of a 162-game season. I mean, to get Trey Turner back at the top of the lineup, matched with a Howie Kendrick or a Wilmer Defoe, or hopefully Goodwin's okay. That just gives them a whole other dimension that they haven't had all year. The only one they're not going to get back is Adam Eaton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but by this point, I already considered Eaton's not coming back this year.
Right, but you're going to get back 3 of those starters, and they're going to be reasonably refreshed. And that's huge. I mean, so we talked earlier about, okay, well, we're probably done with the 10-run games. That may not be the case, but once you start assembling, and you're missing 2 big chunks. You're missing Harper and you're missing Eaton. Harper, you'll get back. But, yeah, I mean, this offense is still potent.
All right, so we have up on the site today a lot of Bryce Harper stuff. I wrote about Brian Goodwin when Bryce Harper was actually healthy, but you should still read it.
I think healthy too.
Yeah, and when Goodwin was healthy. So I think you should still read it anyway. If you want to blame me for Brian Goodwin injury, feel free. I'll take it. But we got great articles going up tomorrow by both of us. Ron worked on a takeaways from the Harper injury, and we talked about so much. I don't want you to give everything away because we want everybody to go read it. But what did you give me some thoughts on how you went about that piece as it goes up tomorrow?
I came up with 3. I mean, some of it obviously was unavoidable, but what I tried to do with the piece was trying to give things that could be done better for the next time. Should that game have even happened at all? What could be done to help so that teams don't feel like they're forced to take a gate and attendance money on a night when they shouldn't be playing? What can be done to make the game safer? And what back end signals should be sent from Major League Baseball to teams and game? Look, you're going to have to play this game, whether we know it doesn't mean anything. You feel like we're not going to give you any heat if you sit certain people down. So much more of a, how do we prevent this from happening again? Because for all the advances that has happened to make the game safer, you can't. This was an injury that should never have happened. And so how do we prevent it from happening again? And it doesn't really matter if it's a superstar or if it's the 25th player on the roster. You're talking about people's livelihoods here. And they shouldn't be taken lightly just because, look, this is a business. I understand it's a business. You need those 81 dates. You need all that money because we're paying all those salaries. But how do we make it safer, and how do we streamline the decision process So last night doesn't happen again.
And I'm sure there'll be a conversation. I know, as we mentioned earlier, Jerry Krasnick wrote an article on ESPN where he talked to Scott Boras, Harper's agent, about the whole basis situation. Bryce Harper said it's a situation he can't control. But we all know what happened with the collision rule with Buster Posey. Maybe baseball looks into this thing with the bases because it nearly cost them one of their superstars in October.
One of the things that I suggested in the piece was look to see if there's a special rain base. Can you do something with the canvas to make it more textured as opposed to slick? So when you do catch it at full speed, your cleats, or do some sort of test for the umpires are checking, cleats. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do. I mean, but these are things that aren't necessarily thought of until something like this happens. And as you said earlier, we are all lucky to have Harper not lost for the playoffs in a game that really shouldn't have been played, because what it would have done for television ratings, Washington's chances of actually advancing the playoffs, all because, look, the economic realities dictated that game had to be played.
Now, coming up also tomorrow, you will catch part of my interview with Nats first-round pick Seth Romero that I did last week. Again, he had a rough game tonight, but a good first outing against Connecticut. He's made 3 professional starts and not a lot to go off of, but had a chance to talk with him last week, so you'll get to read that. We are off tomorrow from DoDcast. Sorry, we're going to miss you guys. But I'll have the 3 storylines, because only 2 games, so we're doing 3 storylines for Nats Angels Part 2. And these guys will, Ron and Drew, or any combination of the two, will be with you for Los Angeles. I won't be back till San Diego. Yeah,
and I'll keep you updated tomorrow on Twitter on how Steven Strasburg does.
Yeah, Ron is filling the minor league chair for the night, but I'm sure there'll be some good Peanuts action out there. Again, they've got some good offensive players, and I think it's going to be great to actually listen to Steven Strasburg on a mound again, because I think we all knew he was going to be back. It's just been a little bit later than, again, we go back to that timeline thing, which is a little bit later than everybody expected.
Don't you think, though, that he really has something to prove to people? He was gone longer than thought. Last few starts weren't very good. As you said, he really seemed to not pitch well when it was hot, which has not been the case in his career. I mean, don't you think, especially with that big contract, that he now feels he has something to prove?
I think so. I thought he was thinking that last year before he got hurt. That I think he was ready to sort of try to prove people wrong, and then what happened against Atlanta last year happened, and I think he wants to go out there and just get back to what he was at the start of the season. Because it was a different pitcher, like you said, in the middle of the year. He's definitely, when he's healthy and going the way, and he's dominant, he's one of the best in the league. That's why he got $175 million. And no, we did not plan this so Ron would listen to a Steven Strasburg rehab start against a Red Sox affiliate. It just happened that way. It's the Salem Red Sox. It's not at Salem, otherwise would have been on MILB TV. But I'm sure Mike Weissman, who is the Potomac broadcaster we talked to earlier this year, will have a heck of a call.
And is a huge Red Sox fan.
That's true. So you might like your tweets with them. Definitely.
So, by the way, you get credit for the win. I get credit for the loss. That's how we talked about it beforehand.
We have not updated. I can update the totals, so I got them all right here.
That's right.
So I go to third. We each have the same amount of wins.
I took a split this weekend.
Yeah, and Ron has 4 games in hand at me. So I'm 35-20. He's 35-24. So I actually caught up all the games I did this week, which was
I hadn't done a game in a week.
It evens itself out. It is very tight in the standings. We go off winning percentage, and I think when I last checked, I was at like 630, and you were at like 600. So it's still fairly even. So as the Nats compete for a pennant, we're competing for the right to be, I don't know, DoDcast champions, or I don't know. What are we calling this whole race again?
This is your creation, man. You just tell me when to show up for work.
Now we get people though that say, "Oh, Ricky's got to come back," because when Ricky comes on, they win. But we all go through winning and losing streaks.
That's right.
We were tracking this. There were some points where Ron had a losing streak. I've had losing streaks.
I kept getting, hate mail from certain tweeters that, I needed to do a rehab DoDcast. And so
simulated DoDcast.
The cat does not want to be interviewed anymore.
We really do appreciate it. We love even happy recaps, sad recaps. And Ron mentioned today we had over where we reach over 5,000 views.
Now we 5,000 views with this podcast. Yeah.
This is, I think, video number 150. We don't have confetti or anything like that, but we wouldn't be here if you guys weren't listening every time. So we definitely appreciate it, whether it's our interviews, whether it's our DoDcast post games, special shows that we've done. You guys are all there listening in, and everybody out there, we appreciate it.
When we came up with the concept, we did not think we would be doing a post game show every night. We think we probably would do them for divisional games and important games, but it really has been, it's a blast to spend time with you folks, and win or lose, whether it's 23-5 or whatever, we try to bring you the best that we can, entertain and inform. That's what we're supposed to do. So we really enjoy doing these.
By the way, we get the double headers all the time where they lose game 1, they win game 2, because that's how I keep gaining ground in the standings, because I do all the game 2s.
I'm going to call your other place of employment and have you nights. Ricky needs to be there.
We have another double header in 2 weeks.
Ricky needs to be there on a Sunday night. I want the night game.
You want the ESPN game in 2 weeks?
No. No. Because you're not off for the first game, so I'm not.
That's the 1:30 and the 8 for that one.
Right. No, I think the my third DoDcast in 22 hours is enough. Thank you.
Seth, we're glad you're here as well, so we definitely appreciate. So we'll be back Tuesday for the Angels. Ron and I are going to go out and watch the rest of the District on Deck Bowl, which is an extra innings.
Is it? No, I'm going to bed.
With Red Sox Yankees, this might go on until 2:00. But the Yankees did have a 16-inning game earlier. Was it like 18 innings earlier this year in Chicago? So who knows? But
it was the hardest in the Statcast era. It was Devers hit the hardest pitch this year for a home run. The home run that tied the game was 103 miles an hour.
I gotta see what the bats exit velo.
105. Was
105 exit velo off 103?
Off 102.8, yeah.
I would have thought that'd been higher. But anyway, Devers is something special. At least that's what it looks like. But it's early in the career, so you got to keep that in mind. So from all of us here at District on Deck, I'm Ricky. He's Ron. Hope you have a great rest of your night. We'll see you back here on Tuesday.